All right. Hello, everyone. I am here with Catherine Lillibridge. And Catherine, where are you from and how did you find Melt?
Well, I'm from San Antonio. I live part of the year in San Antonio and part of the year in southern Maine. So I found Melt when I was living in Houston. So I travel some based on work. And so we were there and I had this terrible shoulder problem. It had happened about 3 years before our time in Houston, but it was progressively getting worse. So a friend that had just had hip surgery told me, about Melt. And so I said, well, I've never heard of it. I wasn't a body worker person before this. I was really more in not-for-profit work, but I always was an exerciser and I always was a meditator. So when she lent me her roller and balls and the DVDs, I just started doing them. And I was getting PT on the shoulder. So I went from, I could not move my arm more than this. It was completely frozen, 3 years into this injury. Now, I mean, I have complete range of motion. So when I started, what I did was hand and feet, because that's what the DVDs I had were. And then I did go to a Melt instructor in Houston and had one lesson. And then we went to Maine. So that's what I had. That was all the information I had. And so I did hands, feet, rebalance, some shoulder blade reach and a little double arm reach, those kind of things. But I mean, I really didn't know there was anything else. And since I wasn't a body worker, it didn't dawn on me to be inquisitive about it. I just did what I was, felt like was the right thing. And I was consistent. So doing that for several months and then going back to my PT in Houston, it was amazing, the progress. And he said, it can take 3 years to get a frozen shoulder back to normal. And this was about 1.5 years in. So I just was loving it so much. Well, then I found Melt on Demand and I was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. So I, of course, joined up to that immediately. And it really just sparked in me this desire to teach it. So that was how I went from literally being and I worked with people in trauma. So I worked with women coming out of violent situations. And so I mean, I had been exposed to what trauma does to the body, but it was all up here. And so I had my physical release of running and I had my meditation practice. But once I found Melt, it was like a bridge between the two. And so all of a sudden, my body and my mind could work together to create healing. And I mean, it was like I didn't know it was missing until I found it. So I say that Melt is the bridge for me between body and mind.
Catherine, that whole piece right there was like poetry. I love it. I'm thinking about going back and like quoting that out and putting it in the description. That was absolutely beautiful. I love it.
You.
And I'm sure you are, as I was when I first found Melt, surprised by how subtle it is and how amazing the changes are.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that happened for me was, being real consistent, doing the hands, the feet, the rebalance, of course, then adding the other pieces. And one day I just was walking along. I also have irritable bowel syndrome for about 18 years now, and pretty much had a low grade anxiety. I always knew it, I was always, and I'm a high energy person. So I knew, kind of that I was wired real tight or real, sometimes more anxious than others. Yeah. So one day I was just, going along in my little apartment in Houston. I'm like, I'm feeling pretty, I call it even keel. Yeah. I feel good. And all of a sudden it was like a light bulb. I'm like, didn't it say in the book? Because of course, by then I'd ordered Sue's book. It says something about the nervous system in the book. And so I went back and read it and I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm an embodiment of this method. I was so excited. And that's when I knew, you know, I wanted to become a teacher. Well, not having ever done body work, I reached out to Melt and said, you know, hey, I do not-for-profit work and accounting is my background.
Right.
Can I even do this?
Yeah.
Yeah. And they were like, sure. And I thought, oh, I was so scared.
Yeah.
And, you know, and it's scary to admit, like, I know nothing when we started our training, but the Melt, you know, people, the Melt tribe is so friendly and so caring. And I now have a group of instructors. We all train together. We all still talk to each other by text and Zoom. So I feel real connected to people that are on this journey and out at all different levels, you know, where all our backgrounds are different. So
I love
coming to it.
I love that you bring that up because I too was not a body worker. I didn't teach classes. I was a homeschooling mom of 3. I worked in banking and retail before I found Melt. So I thought the same thing and reached out to Melt too and said, I'm not anything yet. Can I do Melt as my first little, you know, dive into teaching things about the body? So I love that you bring that up because if anybody's listening to this that is in the same boat, yes, you can. You can be a Melt instructor as well. You can just, you know, practice it and Melt on your own for sure, or find an instructor. But if you're looking to teach something and share something, you don't have to have other like massage therapy in your background or Pilates or yoga, nothing. You can just come at it from wherever you're at, which is what I love. And the tribe is just all inclusive and accepting and friendly for sure. Very supportive.
When I think one of the reasons it works for someone to come in at any point in their life or experience with body work is the indirect before direct. Because even as an instructor, someone will say to me, you know, I've got frozen shoulder. What should I do? And I say, you know, hands and feet. It's always, you know, start anywhere and don't start right on the spot. And especially if for me, I didn't know what I was doing. So if the PT told me to do an exercise, I did it exactly like he said. If Sue said to do the Melt, you know, I did it exactly as she said. But one time I was standing there, you know, assessing for the standing assessment, and she said, give yourself permission to go into your body. Well, again, light bulb, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is meditation. And I do have years of a meditative practice. I'm a big journaler. And so then she'd say, jot down some notes about where, you know, what you noticed. And I'm like, oh, she, you know, like she's talking about journaling. So there were so many things that drew me to it that outwardly I might not have said initially. And I forgot to mention one really, you know, vanity point.
Yeah.
I was having the development of a dowager's hump. And it was, now I know I can look back, it was the frozen shoulder, I think manifesting there. But even the PT who was great, I mean, every time I go, I bring up like, but what about this hump? You know, it doesn't hurt, but it's weird looking. And we just kept working on the arm. I kept doing my thing and it went away. And we went from him saying, I have one patient who had surgery for that, and I can get you the name. Like that was, you know, he said, I don't, you know, he said he didn't have anything to do except my shoulder, which was the right thing. Actually, it was indirect. It was what needed to happen for that dowager's hump to come down.
Love that.
So, and I do have before and after pictures. So I also have a before and after of my thoracic movement because I was so locked down. He said, you've got to work on this thoracic area. You don't have any movement. Well, of course, then Melt, I found it in Melt and started doing it, but I happened to have a picture from the first time he noticed how locked down I was. And then I on my own now, because I've moved from Houston, I'm done with all that. But I took a picture of it and I have the exact change and it's all from Melt.
Yeah.
So
I love that. And that's a great message for other people too. If you are just starting Melt, journal how you feel now, because believe it or not, as in your pain as you are at this moment, you will not remember how you feel. If you start melting regularly and then come back to your journal in a month, you will be shocked. Like, Oh my goodness, I felt like that. I don't even remember.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Catherine, for sharing all of that. And what I would love to do is put all of your contact information in the description of this video. So if anyone wants to get in touch with you and email you and maybe even see those before and after pictures, that would be amazing. I'm sure some people are going to want to see those now. But do you teach melt classes? And if so, where and when?
I do. I teach online. I have 4 to 5 classes a week. I have one couple on the weekend, some midday, some in the evening. I do in-person one-on-ones, and I do online one-on-ones. And then I've been doing some things, I call them kind of pop-ups. So we'll meet in a public place like at a school track, and we'll do a little melt and we'll walk. I have a pickleball and melt thing coming up. So just introducing it as, fun and easy, and bringing in a little bit of movement along with the melt. So yes, so that'll all be on my website.
Excellent. And we'll put all of that contact information in the description. Catherine, thank you so much for being here with me. And if you would like to share your melt story, you can get in touch with me in the description as well. Happy melting, everyone.